working man bodybuilding rep speed. So either the last video or I've mentioned other videos about the rep speed being dictating how your rep ranges should be. Somebody's 5, like mine, with a slower rep cadence and emphasis on the negative, is going to be similar to somebody's 8 or 10 reps because of how control I am of the weight. Why is this important? Well, for a number of reasons. Specifically, it's easier on your joints. It does create a safer atmosphere when you control the negative, and you're stronger in your negative. So my point is the rep speed, meaning when I say rep speed, I mean a slower negative. Maybe even adding a pause at the bottom of the top. Like when I do presses, I pause at the bottom because I've got front delt issues. And I'm not trying to over develop them more than what they are, but also to not strain them. And plus I've had pec tendon issues too. So that pec tendon, that pec delt tie-in area is very fragile for me. And I'm trying to avoid getting any kind of surgeries. So I pause at the bottom of presses. I used to do these with pulls. I would pause in the stretch, and then when I pull, like a one arm overhand, underhand pull down, I'd pause and hold at the bottom. That's 1 second, 1 second to stretch. So that's 1 second for each one of those. With a slow negative, maybe a 3 count, pause, and then come up. Semi-explosive, I'm not jerking the weight, but I am using my lats to pull down. I'm using my chest to push. So it gives that emphasis on that muscle when you can do that. So adding a pause at the bottom of the top. So that's going to dictate your rep speed. Let's go add an extra second usually. Your lifting portion, the concentric, is the weakest part of the whole rep. The hold, you're holding, like say if you're holding it, when I come down on the one arm overhand 100 and pull down and down to here and hold it, I lead with my elbow and pull down and squeeze my lat. This is the second strongest. And then when I slow the negative down to get that stretch in my lat, my teres major, in my upper back a little bit, that negative is the strongest. I don't really know the percentage, maybe 20, 30% stronger in the negative than you are the concentric. Why not take advantage of that? At the same time, too, you're stressing the muscle from every part of the rep. You're getting the most out of each rep. It's not sloppy. It keeps you from tweaking something, pulling something. So you want your first rep to look like your last rep, but slower. Like if you're doing a rep, you're doing 1, holding it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, or even if you go for a stretch at the top for a pause. That's what? 4 second negative, 1 second concentric, that's 5, 1 second hold at the bottom, 1 second stretch at the top. That's a 7 second rep. Most people are not doing that. I don't ever really see that in the gym that I've ever went to. The gyms I've went to, it's extremely rare. Unless there's a specific reason they're emphasizing that. But it's aided with my progress. So, with that being said, my rep speed, you don't have to do that. I do it because it's easier on your joints. I've got elbow issues. I've got front delt issues. I've got a little bit of forearm pain. I've got knee pain. When I've slowed the negatives down, 4 or 5 seconds, I usually go for about 5-ish seconds, 4 to 5 seconds on my isolation work, on the negative. I might add a hold, that's either the same 1 second hold, 1 second pause to top, bottom or top. And then the concentric is usually 1 second. Semi-explosive. I'm not jerking the weight, but I am moving at a faster rate to emphasize the fast twitch fibers. That negative keeps you from losing control, and that jerk and keeps your joints healthier and also strengthens them. I can't give you any type of studies or anything like that, but I've done some reading in my past, and my experience too has been easier. I used to have medial epicondylitis in my elbow, or tendinosis of some sort. And when I did 5-second negatives on that and did some other joint healthy work, it got better. I did negative only concentration curls for a good chunk of when I was doing my fat loss phase back in 2022 going into 23. And I was still able to progress on exercises and without it getting worse. But it does take a while, because it takes a while to get it. It takes a while for it to go away, to heal up. But that does help. So that rep speed does matter. You're safer. You more control the weight. And it makes the quality of your repetitions better throughout the set. You can, like I said, you can even heal up some of those areas over time if you're patient. It's not easy because everybody else is throwing weights around. They're moving at a faster rate. That's them. You don't have to do that. If you want to do it, you can ignore all this. But the rep speed does dictate what rep range you use. So on my compounds, me personally, like I said in the last video, I do 5 to 8 or 6 to 9 most of the time on compounds. Isolation work, 8 to 12, sometimes 10 to 15 or more. Now, when I go up higher rep ranges, I don't like lateral raises. It's hard to fight the negatives on those. I mean, the resistance curve with dumbbell lateral raises is not worth doing that type of thing with. You lose the chance of progression that way. It all depends on the exercise. But compounds specifically, I usually use a 3 to 4 second negative most of the time. On isolation work, 4 to 5 seconds. I count it. I just count it. I don't have a time clock or anything like that. Stopwatch. I don't have anything like that, but I count it. You know, if I'm doing bicep curls, I'm here and I pull with my biceps up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Touch my thigh, come back up. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't hold the concentric on some of them. Sometimes I do. It just depends. On my tricep work, I don't fully lock out, but I do a 4 count, 4 to 5 second negative on it. But it keeps you from adding variables in there to taint your progress. That's all I'm saying. So take that into consideration. I think it's a little underrated. I think it's a little bit more important than the actual rep range itself is the rep speed. It doesn't get talked about enough. Controlling the negative doesn't get talked about enough. And being able to do pause at the top and bottom at times doesn't get talked about enough. But that all dictates your rep speed, which dictates your rep range. So those two correlate very heavily. And I don't think you can have one without it. You can't have one without the other.